and good evening. Welcome to the meditation session titled I Am Awareness. I aspire to be awareness. I know I'm not awareness right now, but unless I have an aspiration, not unless, but an aspiration, a want towards something higher, bigger, if I have that, it helps in paving the way. The universe is told, I want this. I want to be awareness. And then, before I know it, with effort from my side and with lots and lots of grace and guidance, I realize, oh, I have traveled a bit on this and the journey continues. So starting this session with a prayer, with an aspiration that I want to be aware, more and more aware of myself, because journey begins from home. So the breath I take, the thoughts, the feelings, if I can step back and see them, if I can step back from the mind and see it, suddenly the game changes. The way I live changes. And how it is said that then it, from Maya, it becomes Leela. It becomes a play. So for the next 5 minutes, before I put on the guided meditation on non-self, let's sit with ourselves, let's sit with our breath sincerely and watch, the up and down and the in and out. And the practice is aimed at focusing on one thing as much as we can, because when we start getting conscious of our minds, we see that very clearly, that how much the mind is scattered, how many different unrelated even thoughts come to me and take me to so many places. It is said that, a camera, maybe if it can capture 15 shots a second, my mind can capture more and take me to those different places. So let me sit with myself and see, is it possible to not get taken every time? And if I get taken, I come back. So sitting straight, relaxed, yet spine straight if possible. In a comfortable position, that means if possible, legs are crossed. If you're sitting on a chair, the legs are not hanging. Arms resting comfortably on each other or on, our thighs, preferably facing upwards. And eyes closed unless we practice meditation with eyes open. So taking 2-3 exaggerated breaths, like, exaggerated in and exaggerated out, that brings us to the present moment. We start with this focus. So we can do this in our own way. Exaggerated breaths and starting the focus on our breath. We can focus on any chakra. The idea is to inculcate the habit of focusing on one thing that leads us to the mastery of our mind. This is a small baby step towards the mastery. Then I control my thoughts. I control what's going on. At least I'm aware, if not controlling. Yes, we'll begin now. The world can wait. The investigations, the planning, the day can wait. For right now, let me be my breath. The body breathes on its own, and the breath is often ignored. When I stand in front of a water body, the ocean, the hills, suddenly I feel a silence within me. There's an awe, there's a silence. And so is my breath, so majestic, so life giving. I'm dependent on my breath from living, and yet, if I'm asked to look at it, to be it for just a few minutes, I get bored. But if I look at it with awe, with the magnanimity that it is, I might be able to fall in love with it. I will actually. And then looking at it, being with it, would become much easier. And now I'll be starting a guided meditation on no self with Joseph Goldstein. So we'll hear that together and we'll try to follow the instructions and be with it as much as we can.
I'd like to offer some background to this practice that might be helpful. I'm aware that the opportunity for longer retreats is not available for many of our community who are busy raising families or busy at work. And on longer retreats, it's easier to access deeper meditative states. But when we're involved in our worldly responsibilities, this can often be quite a challenge. On longer retreats, we really have an opportunity to explore the many ways in which we construct a view of self, a sense of self. And we begin to see the unskillful actions that come out of this mistaken notion of what we call the personality view. And at different points in our practice, we can have deepening realizations of the fundamental teachings of the Buddha. And that particularly is of anatta, the Pali word for selflessness or non-self, that there's no inherently existing self. But when we're not in a position to do a longer intensive retreat, is this insight, this understanding accessible to us? On my last self-retreat, quite spontaneously, a 9-minute-a-day plan came to my mind. I thought of it as a way of turbocharging our daily practice by doing 3 short meditations a day, 3-minute meditations. And each of these sessions that I'm about to guide us in targets a particular area of strong identification where this mistaken sense of self is created and is strengthened. In the first 3 minutes, we'll simply sit and listen to sounds. And as we open to and relax into the awareness of the various sounds, settling back into that openness, into that spaciousness, we can ask ourselves the question, can I find what is knowing the sound? As we investigate, we discover that there's no actual knower, even though knowing is happening. So in this case, we're listening to sounds, we're open to hearing, and when the mind feels open, relaxed, spacious, we ask the question, can I find what's knowing the sound? And we see that although we cannot find the knower, the knowing is still going on. So this can be very helpful in breaking the identification with the knowing as a knower. All that's going on is just hearing. There's no I or self behind it. In the second 3 minutes, we'll do an exercise that helps break through the very strong identification we have with the body. And in this session, there are 2 parts, and they could be alternated with one another, or you could find the one that is most helpful for you. The first part of the exercise is to take in as deeply as possible the truth that birth inevitably ends in death. To make as vivid as possible the understanding not only of our own deaths, but also the deaths of everyone around us. The truth of this is not something morbid, but rather it's part of the truth of our lives. This is something that will come to pass for us all. And it serves as a very potent reminder that the body is not self, is not I. It's subject to aging, decay, and death. The other exercise in this second session, in which we're learning to not identify with the body, is to be experiencing bodily sensations free of the concept of body or part of body. And so we'll be investigating and experiencing the sensations directly and their changing nature. In the last 3 minutes involves a careful attention to thoughts with an effort to be aware of thoughts precisely as they arise. Very often we're aware of thoughts after they're already finished, and that itself is a useful insight. But in this particular 3 minutes, we'll arouse the effort and the energy and the attentiveness to be watching for thoughts and to see if it's possible to be aware of them in their very moment of arising. When we're able to do this, even for a few moments, we often see that in the moment of being aware of the thought vanishes. And through repeating this exercise again and again, we weaken the identification we have with the thought process, with thinking. Begin to see that thought itself is the thinker, and that there's no I or self behind it. So if we can combine this 9-minute a day program with the other aspects of a daily practice, I feel that this can tremendously enliven our understanding of the teachings and even the depths of the teachings in the midst of our very busy lives. In the first 3-minute meditation, we'll be opening to the awareness of sounds. So sit comfortably with the eyes relaxed, seeing if you can let go of any tension that you might be holding in the body. And simply listen to the different sounds that are arising. They may be loud sounds, or background sounds, or the sound of my voice. Very relaxed and open way. Be aware of each sound in the moment of its arising, in the clear, open space of mind. Notice how each sound is known spontaneously in the very moment of its arising. No special effort is needed to hear. Hearing happens spontaneously, effortlessly. Keeping the eyes relaxed, the body relaxed, as if you're listening to music. Letting all sounds arise and appear and disappear by themselves in the open space of mind. In this relaxed, open space, see if you can find what's knowing the sound. Each sound is being known in the moment it appears, but known by what? It's not thinking about what's knowing the sound, but rather looking directly. Can you find what's knowing? even though we can't find what's knowing, the knowing is there. We're hearing the sound. There's knowing without a knower. Hearing without a hearer. Simply sounds being known, moment after moment. No self, no I behind them. In the second 3 minutes, you can either use the time to reflect on the inevitable decay and death of the body, either of your own, of people you know, you might have been with as they were dying. Particularly be aware of it in terms of the universality of this process, that everyone we know, people close to us, people we don't know, all share in this same process of birth, aging, decay, and death. And to reflect on that in as vivid a way as possible, calling up images in the mind to remind oneself of how this happens. So we can focus either on that aspect, or as a guided meditation, we'll focus on becoming aware of sensations in the body, free of the concept of I, of self, free even of the concept of body. So sitting comfortably, eyes relaxed, be aware of the hands touching one another. And begin to notice what it is that you feel. Do you feel your hands? Do you feel your fingers? Do you feel particular sensations? Warmth, pulsing, tingling, vibration? And notice the difference between those two responses. Hands and fingers are concepts. There's no sensation called hand. There's no sensation called finger. Those are all concepts and images which we overlay on the direct experience of the changing sensations. So as you're sitting, settle into that direct experience. What are the actual sensations being felt? What is it like to feel the sensations directly without the concept of finger, of hand? This experience can often feel like we're aware of sensations in space. There's no solidity. Sensations themselves are continually changing, vibrating, pulsing, getting stronger, getting weaker. Can you feel the sensations without superimposing the concept of form, but just the direct experience of the sensations themselves. Now let the awareness open to sensations throughout the body. Might feel heaviness or pressure or tightness or pulling, lightness. Settle back with a relaxed, open awareness. Open to any sensation that might appear. There's no head, no neck, no shoulders, no back, no chest, no arms or legs or feet. Only points of sensation, points of feeling, arising and passing in the open emptiness of mind. There's no solid body that is self or I. Only particular sensations being known, moment after moment. As we free ourselves from the concept of body, there's less inclination to identify with it. We see it as a dynamic, changing energy pattern in constant flux.
So through this, we learned, or we saw, we glimpsed that how we just look at the superficial, and through this meditation, they were trying to take us in and relate with the direct sensations without identification with the body. Because we usually just stop there. So it's good if we can inculcate this practice of going deeper within. So in the interest of time, we'll be ending this here and we can take up the rest next week. So thanking Grace while we breathe in and out, aspiring that we can be more aware of ourselves, our thoughts, our feelings, of our breathings, our habit patterns, our tendencies throughout the day. Because unless I know how would I step back? I get lost, but we have got lost enough. And if we have suffered enough, maybe we can start stepping back and seeing things for what they are and not getting lost in the superficial. So, again, thanking Grace and the Divine for the ability to sit, to listen, to comprehend the gift of breath, the aspiration, the desire for peace, contentment, simplicity. May it blossom more and more in me and in every sentient being. I start this day with a prayer, a sincere prayer that may all beings be well, truly happy, truly content, and truly in peace. And remembering that this is not just for this time, this aspiration for awareness. Let me, but with effort, make it a part, more and more a bigger part of my everyday. Thank you.